Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Empower Half Hour. Business success, life success mastermind.
On vacation, haven't you?
Yes, I've been on vacation. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. So so we're here at the train car at the corner of Route 112 and 347 live. We're starting again every Tuesday. It's a partnership with the Port Jefferson Station's Harryville Chamber of Commerce, or North Brookhaven Chamber formerly, the Time to Play Foundation, and my name is Doreen Guma. This is Ryder.
Hey guys, I am Ryder Champoulian. My point in life is to help people move, think, and feel better easily for a lifetime. You can find out more about me at rjchampoulian.com, at acupunctureoflongisland.com, or at crossfitdhp.com.
Fabulous.
And of course, Instagram, Facebook, all those things as well. Hit me up. I'm there for you.
And I'm the founder of the Time to Play Foundation. So we have so much to talk about. And Jerry, introduce yourself. And
Jerry Siegel with my business is JASP Management, Coaching, Training, and Development.
And somebody else joined us on a 235 number, but you have really, really big feedback coming in. So I don't know if you could put your phone on mute and give us a call back, or just put your phone on mute. Are you there? I don't know. I want you to participate, but we gotta. And who is it that joined us on the 235 number? Who is on with us today? You want to introduce yourself? Oh, hi, Jack. Okay. All right. So don't be on the Facebook. Don't be on the Facebook Live. Just be on your call with us, or mute your computer. Okay. So we have a lot to cover today. A lot to cover. First thing I want to just mention, we are having Start 2018 Winning at Life. And this book, The Biology of Desire, and this man, Dr. Mark Lewis, is going to be our keynote speaker. This is like the biggest thing to happen to our area since sliced bread. Dr. Lewis actually lives in the Netherlands. He is a neuroscientist. We're flying him in to be the keynote speaker for Start 2018 Winning at Life. Awesome. I'm like oozing. I don't know if you see ooze. Anyway, he has been studying the brain. He actually is a former heroin addict, and he studies the brain regarding how we become addicted to things. Life. We are addicted to different things. How does our brain work? How does it keep us prisoner? How do we react versus respond to life situations? So we're doing Start 2018 Winning at Life. I was listening to the news this morning, and they're discussing lifestyle changes. We hear that all the time. That's our self-help industry, lifestyle changes. But if we understand why we do what we do, we won't need a lifestyle change. We won't need bariatric surgery. We won't need recovery. We can do this correctly to benefit ourselves so we can enjoy life right the first time. So anyway, keep an eye open. We're going to be sending this information out. This is like the best thing I've ever, like everything in my life has come to this. It's the most coolest things. It is so awesome. So anyway, it's going to be March 3. We're doing it at Theater 3 in Port Jefferson Village. We have about 400 seats. I expect them to be full. And so keep an eye out. We'll be sending out some information about that shortly. And so we are now embarking our Mastermind life success and business success. I decided to add life success because honestly, life success and business success are kind of the same.
Flip sides, the same coin.
Yeah, exactly. And Ryder is super smart, and Jerry is super smart, and I'm so grateful to have people here to work together with us to help bring the information to us so we can save time, so we can have a better life. So Dale Carnegie wrote this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I'm going to monopolize our conversation a little to start to introduce this. This book was written in he studied in 1912, This book was published in 1937, and this book is incredible. I haven't read it in some years, and we were talking about it before. Ryder said he reads it twice a year.
Twice a year, minimum.
I actually bought this for our children. We talked about it, and Jerry even said that we should have this as required reading. So he started in 1912, Dale Carnegie, teaching people educational courses on public speaking. He said he was training adults by actual experience to think on their feet and express their ideas with more clarity. And he realized that as sorely as these adults needed training in effective speaking, they needed more training in the art of getting along with people in everyday business and social contacts, and that he needed that type of training himself. So we've talked about the C word, communication, here. Oh, by the way, I have a cold. I don't know if you noticed. Sorry. I have my tissues and I have a cold, but I'm holding my own.
That's why I'm sitting over back here. Like,
we got the plague shield up. So anyway, so dealing with people is probably the biggest problem we face, especially if you're in business or if you're a housewife or an architect or an engineer. 15% of one's financial success is due to one's technical knowledge, and 85% is due to skill in human engineering, to personality, and the ability to lead people. This is just in the preface. This isn't even in the book, the chapter where it starts. He said those who succeed, there's some feedback or noise from somebody over there who's joined us. If you guys could mute yourselves, and if you want to say anything, please just interrupt me because I'm so pumped up about this book. You can just chime in anytime. So he said the person who has technical knowledge plus the ability to express ideas, to assume leadership, and to arouse enthusiasm among people are headed for higher earning power. John Rockefeller, we know how famous he is and what he accomplished in his millions, right? The ability to deal with people is as purchasable a commodity as sugar or coffee, and I will pay more for that ability. So
100%.
Everybody is really the focus on the ability to deal with people. And the University of Chicago and the United YMCA schools did a survey that took them 2 years. The survey revealed that health is the prime interest of adults and their second interest is people. How to understand? Yes?
That took them 2 years. It revealed that health is the prime interest of adults and their second interest is people. How to understand?
Oh, somebody's on the Facebook. Somebody's on the Facebook. If you can shut the Facebook background noise off. I took you guys off speakerphone for a minute. The feedback is really very high here, and I want
mute your computer.
Yeah,
people.
Mute your computer. Call in. Please interrupt. Please, this is supposed to be a discussion, although I'm introducing. Because this book is really important. And again, I haven't read it for some years, and everybody really should. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. So this is going back again. This is, 1935, I said, right?
37, I believe.
Something like that, forever. So the survey revealed the second interest is people, how to understand and get along with people, how to make people like you, and how to win others to your way of thinking. He said the book they need has never been written, but this is the book. And it took him 15 years to write this book based on experience and research. And he researched and he read everything. He wrote in the introduction, we're still in the introduction, a man with 314 employees joined one of the courses that he had done on this research. For years, he had driven and criticized and condemned his employees without stint or discretion. Kindness, words of appreciation and encouragement were alien to his lips. After studying the principles discussed in this book, his employer sharply altered his philosophy of life, and his organization is now inspired with a new loyalty, a new enthusiasm, and a new spirit of teamwork. So Jerry and I have been working for some time on the Enjoy Life Community Corporate Workplace program. 98% of workplace employees have experienced workplace hostility. This book was written in 1930. I gotta look.
In the 1930s.
In the 1930s.
Give or take 10 years.
1937.
I sold you.
We are nowhere. You did. Oh, I don't want to touch
That's
you.
all right.
We are no further along than we were in 1937. Are we?
No, if I take a moment, I'll give it up
Please.
to the millennials on this. I think the millennials are much further ahead than
Yes,
people of
I
my
agree.
generation and preceding generations.
Mhm.
I think they have a much more open mindset to race, gender, sexual orientation, all those things that were once
Bullying.
boundaries, bullying,
Right.
that were once boundaries and points of difference, instigation, and antagonization.
Mhm.
They're much more flow state in those positions. So I like to think that change is on the brink of coming. It usually takes a generation or two for patterns like that to become permanent within society. But I think they've done a good job of.
However, our people are still having bullying. Our children are
Of
still
course.
killing themselves because of
course.
bullying.
Yep.
And in truth, I still think that we're not as far along as we should be as a human being, as a human race. Like realistically,
Consider where we've come in the last 100 years compared to the last thousands of years of wars, feudal state societies. Like the last 100 years has been a really, really big change, and especially the last 50 years for a state of well-being in people's lives. No, we don't have famine the way we do. We don't have people being hung in the town square, hit with rocks. Like a lot of that stuff has changed, especially in our culture. Maybe not throughout the entire world. So you look at the global infrastructure, we're heading in the right direction. It may not be
Right.
instantaneous, but no change ever is.
I appreciate that. Jerry, do you have any thoughts? Because I know you're brimming with something to speak on over there.
Well, again, Dory, what Dale Carnegie espouses in the initial chapter is skills for good human relations. I mean, the essence of this chapter is don't criticize, condemn, or complain. And certainly those are good characteristics of leadership. And leadership starts with oneself, but then obtains others who want to follow.
Agreed.
And they want to follow somebody who they can respect, who they can admire, and somebody who respects it and gives them respect.
So Jerry spoke of principle number 1, which is on page 16. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. And throughout part 1, chapter 1, entitled, If You Want to Gather Honey, Don't Kick Over the Beehive, Dale Carnegie spoke of people behind prison walls who don't blame themselves for anything but the people with whom they come in contact. 90
to Gun Pally.
Crazy, right? 99 times out of 100, people don't criticize themselves for anything, no matter how wrong it may be. Criticism is futile because it puts a person on the defensive and usually makes him strive to justify himself. Criticism is dangerous because it wounds a person's precious pride, hurts his sense of importance, and arouses resentment. He referenced B.F. Skinner, and I've never read B.F. Skinner's books. I know writers, I'm sure, done so. But B.F. Skinner's written, what is his most famous book?
That I wouldn't know. I know a lot of his studies and psychological premises, but the famous books.
Yeah, he's got one that's been advertised on the TV.
Well, let's Google it.
Okay. So do you remember, Jerry, what B.F. Skinner's most famous book is?
I do not know, Dory.
If anybody wants to share, please do share. he had done an experiment that an animal rewarded for good behavior would learn much more rapidly and retain what it learns far more effectively than an animal punished for bad behavior. The same applies to humans. By criticizing, we do not make lasting changes and often incur resentment. And another psychologist, a Dr. Selly, said that as much as we thirst for approval, we dread condemnation. The resentment that criticizes engenders can demoralize employees, family members, and friends, and still not correct the situation that has been condemned. Criticism is futility.
Is it science and human behavior?
Science and human behavior?
Beyond freedom and dignity, the behavior of organisms, the technology of teaching, about behaviorism, B.F. Skinner.
I don't know. I
He's
just
got
remember
like 30, 40 books on here. It's very well written.
I just remember on the news or on something, like I remember seeing on TV.
He's got really cool hair.
He's got cool hair. It's cool to know. Oh yeah, it's big. It's big. It's big hair. Yeah, I don't know.
Google it yourselves. Learn something.
So criticism creates justification, and if we really think about it, that people strive to justify themselves if they're criticized.
Gina's on the line.
Oh.
Hi, Gina.
Hi, Gina. Gina, you want to have anything to say? I don't know. Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
So we lost.
I'm listening and watching.
This is like so
Awesome.
amazing. Like I said, haven't read this book in a while. We did lose Jack, and I'm sad because Jack is so cool. And he's really smart, Jack.
He's a smart guy.
He's a really smart guy. So everybody's really smart, actually. So, but anyway, this makes a lot of sense, right, guys? Gina, Jerry?
Yes.
When we
We're
criticize...
talking about the fact that winds haven't changed in thousands of years. People are the same today as they were in prehistoric times. And what Dale Carnegie is offering here is just some very basic, very simple tenets of human relations.
Well, when we...
Nobody likes to be criticized.
No, and he writes on page 8, human nature in action, wrongdoers blame everybody but themselves. Tell me, did that change since 1937?
No.
Right.
And nobody likes criticism. Everybody likes advice, but the only difference between criticism and advice is how you interpret it.
Interesting. And one of the things that I've been learning about very much is emotional intelligence. And I'm a certified social emotional intelligence coach, and I'm actually meeting with Ira later. He is as well. So I'm really excited because this is something that we are so not aware of. Research that started in the 1920s that would change our lives. It's life and coping skills and part of the pre-invent, not reinvent your life idea that I've come up with. But if we are going to correct a person, we need to shift and do it in a different manner and help that person build on their strengths. So he talked about President Lincoln and his approach, malice towards none, with charity for all, judge not that ye be not judged. And he talked about how President Lincoln would actually write what was bothering him, but not actually mail it. He actually almost wound up in a sword fight, right? Because
he picked the dueling sabers because he had the longer reach. It's pretty smart if you get into a fight with a short guy.
Agreed. But he actually learned his lesson because he used to condemn everyone, and his
wife found many of the letters that he had written after he had passed away, and released them to the public. They're on archives and museums and so forth. But a lot of them were harsh beyond harsh, even by today's standards, what we consume as being harsh. Criticism, insulting, derogatory to generals in his army for not making moves at elbows and rivers where they could have taken out the other army. And his general premise was, and one that I use on a daily basis, to take into consideration that you haven't walked in the person's shoes, that if you had grown up under the same context, had the same experiences, had the same influences in your life, the same knowledge and education, and the same interpretations of things, that you too would make the exact same choice, and not to condemn somebody for their choice, but to in fact be compassionate to them for the situations in their life that have brought them to make that choice.
Right, which is very interesting. So what he wrote, Gina, I think that might be you, but there's feedback again on your side. Okay, so he wrote, just for a minute, maybe I ought not to be so hasty. Is it easy enough for me to sit here in the quiet of the White House? Basically, he said, perhaps I would have done just what he had done under, water under the bridge, under that same circumstance, instead of condemning somebody and arousing hard feelings and impairing further usefulness. Sharp criticism, rebukes, ends in futility. And so the letters allowed him to blow off steam. So did Mark Twain also used letters in that instance. And I've heard of that. People have said that, and also the count to 10, right? We've heard of count to 10 before you say something, right?
Tony Robbins has one that he uses that he's trained himself and his wife, and I've taken apart with my team members and colleagues. That's a 90-second BS rule.
Okay.
And anytime you feel the tensions of something coming up, of any kind of altered state other than being in a beautiful state, you have 90 seconds to express it, to acknowledge it, and then to let it pass away. So you let the BS go away and return back to a beautiful state. Oh. And very often my wife will look at me, I'll get something, and something will get under my skin. I'm like, and she'll look at me and she's like, 90 seconds BS. And nobody else knows what that means except for a few key people in my lives. And usually I look at it, I'm like, I don't want to be in a beautiful state. And then I start cracking up because it really is absolutely ridiculous that I'm letting my emotions get the best of my mind and my heart. And I realize the futility of it, and I kind of go back like, oh, I hate you for bringing that up, but you're right. So, all right. And I'm giggling about it and laughing about it. In the end, it takes me out of that state instantaneously. So it's great to be able to do it by yourself. It's even better to have the people that you love and trust and rely upon around you to give them that vulnerability that, hey, if you see me in a state where I'm not being myself, not being the best that I can be, I'm giving you the power to hit the button to allow me to express myself for 90 seconds because all emotion is a good emotion. There are no such thing as bad emotions. Bad emotions are a signal or a flare or a warning system that something needs to change within ourselves. Just like pain is, bad emotions are a source of emotional or psychological pain. They are things that come up to warn us that something needs to change either within ourselves or within our environment. Either take it for what it is, express it, because bottling up's no good either, right? No. So express it for the 90 seconds that you have to, and then get back on the good stuff.
Appreciate that. So we can remember. Go ahead, Jerry.
Anytime we react emotionally, we are putting ourselves in a potentially difficult and challenging position. We want to always look at the intellectual as opposed to the emotional, but it's often difficult, as the writer is saying, to push that emotion aside.
Absolutely.
And to prevent it from allowing you to criticize, condemn, or complain, or to yell, or to scream, or to immediately respond. But by taking that few seconds to stop and think and reflect, it allows you to recognize that you're not going to accomplish anything with that emotional reaction, with that emotional response.
Absolutely.
Jack has something to add here too from the live
Jack's
feed.
there?
Yep, Jack's here. We got a couple people
Hi,
interacting back and forth. So
I missed your talking.
Gina's here. We got Jack on the line. We got George Spurl chimed in a little earlier ago, and Jack put in a good point here with there are two things people want more than sex and money: recognition and praise. That's from Mary Kay Ash. He said, I don't know if that applies to everyone all the time. He said, do a reset in your mind and stop.
Love it. So
good input. Thank you.
Definitely a takeaway here is we can all remember BS. Beautiful state. I like that a lot. I never heard that one before.
No, that's all his whole work. All Tony Robbins' work nowadays is returning yourself back to that beautiful state.
Right.
Not peak state, because peak state has a sense of attainment and you got to drive for it, but to be in a beautiful state, to be compassionate and loving and love yourself and love everybody else just as much.
And that's really the focus of the foundation is to focus on the positive possibilities and life enjoyment. Like that's our solution. Time to play. Every moment of your day, you should feel like you're at play. It's a reminder and reinforcement to love your life. So he wrote on page 12 that Confucius said, I love that. Don't complain about the snow on your neighbor's roof, said Confucius, when your own doorstep is unclean. I love that. So don't begin, we're not condemning other people, because we really don't know what is, happening in their life. We need to be understanding. The awareness. I wrote that on page 12. I wrote it here. Awareness. For the next paragraph, he wrote, your bad manners are exceeded only by your bad manners. I love that.
Thanks, Abraham Lincoln.
Right. Oh my God. And if you and I want to stir up resentment tomorrow that may rankle across the decades and endure until death, just let us indulge in a little stinging criticism, no matter how certain we are that it is justified. When dealing with people, let us remember we are not dealing with creatures of logic. We are dealing with creatures of emotion, creatures bristling with prejudices and motivated by pride and vanity, just what Ryder was speaking of. Yep. Bitter criticism ruins people. People die of suicide. He used an example, it drove Thomas Chatterton, the English poet, to suicide, criticism and insensitiveness. This is the bullying. This is the stuff. This is a result. It is not we have to combat and tackle suicide prevention, drug prevention. No, it all has a root cause. And, so Benjamin Franklin, he spoke on page 13, which Ryder's smiling. Like, these people.
I don't read ahead, I promise.
No, these people were amazing.
It's stuck in here, folks. It's like Velcro inside the skull.
But he wrote, The Secret of Success. I will speak ill of no man and speak all the good I know of everybody. Any fool can criticize, condemn, and complain, and most fools do, but it takes character and self-control to be understanding and forgiving. A great man shows his greatness, says Carlyle, by the way he treats little men. And quite frankly, Jerry and I talk about this, and Ryder and I actually were conversing about this. Like, I have a different way that I behave. Like, if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'll do it. I don't care what it is. Even if I don't want to do it because I said I was going to do it, it's called integrity. It's my word. Right. But that's not the normal. My experience, it's not what I experience in the most, people don't call me back. People don't respond. People don't, even when
you're willing to give them thousands of dollars for business.
But it doesn't
come back.
Right. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. And this is, I think, what I've been held up on in a lot, where I guess I expect them to be like me. And Jerry and I have this conversation all the time, right, Jerry? But if you look we do. But if you look at this book and you look at what he's saying, and this is stuff that's been written like almost 100 years ago.
Yes.
What in the world is it that we're doing? And why is this awareness so hidden? And it's so silly. But anyway, he talked about, which was incredible, this guy, Bob Hoover, who he was a test pilot, and he had a mechanic use the wrong jet fuel in his airplane.
President Hoover.
Right? Yeah. And he didn't die. He was able to land the plane. He didn't die.
Nearly died.
But he said to the man who was like freaky, could you imagine? Like,
the guy killed the president.
Right. Oh my God. All right. Well, anyway, he says he went to him and said, to show you I'm sure you'll never do this again, I want you to service my F-51 airplane tomorrow. I don't know that I would have been that big, but I would have recognized that that's very true. This man is now going to probably be the best mechanic ever.
This is a lesson that you can take the Post-it note off the book and apply it in every area aspect of your life, from children to friends to family to colleagues, co-workers, and employees.
Indeed.
The best thing to do when somebody F's up is to give them the opportunity to fix it, with the expectation that you've explained to them that they know what the issue is and the problem was, and that you give them the power to reclaim what was lost by their own imperfection.
Indeed. What do you guys think on the call? So I guess nothing. On page 14.
I guess nothing. Just all mesmerized.
On page 14, he writes, often parents are tempted to criticize their children. You would expect me to say don't, but I will not. I'm merely going to say, before you criticize them, read one of the classics of American journalism, Father Forgets.
Cry every time.
I'm serious. So
Please don't read it. I don't want to cry.
I was going to read it, but I'm not going to. We're actually out of time. I have my tissues. So, but anyway, I actually posted the poem on my Facebook. There's a link, and it really was something that made you think a lot. That one simple act can destroy somebody forever.
That's it.
One simple act can destroy somebody forever. I was talking to a person yesterday that talked about her and her husband divorcing, and her son, who is actually a heroin addict and has been battling addiction since ever. But during that crisis in yourself, we still have to recognize what's happening around us. Yeah. And, your job still is depending on you. Your children are still depending on you. Whatever is the situation, life situations, life and coping skills, hence the Pre-Invent Your Life project. And I'm so grateful, like this whole 7 years of my research is seeming to come full circle here now. And
you're welcome.
it's all good. So, but anyway, he writes, oddly enough, college periodicals have used it and high school magazines have used it, and I searched it and it still actually was there. I was really grateful to see it. He wrote, I just highlighted a little piece of that poem that says, what has habit been doing to me? The habit of finding fault, of reprimanding. This was my reward to you for being a boy. It was not what I did not love you. It was that I expected too much. So who are we expecting too much from in our life? Who are we criticizing? Who are we more harsh to? And this is so important in the business world. What are we expecting, and how are we approaching, and what is our, I don't know. I guess.
What's our agenda and our purpose and our why we're doing these things? And something that I'd like to add, because I know we're getting short on time here, over time as it is. Those of you out there watching or watching in the future, be cognizant, be conscious of the words you use and how you interact with the people around you. It's easy for us to go ahead and go, okay, I'm not going to critique. And the old praise, correct praise methods out there. But there's one mistake that I see that comes over and over and over again when people are making corrections, and it's the word but. And I try to limit but in my life as much as possible. Also often we use but, and it negates what follows it, what preceded it. So if you have a son named Timmy, I can see you did great in math this year, you did great in science, you got all A's, but in science you got a B. It completely takes away the power of that positive affirmation. Right. And negates it. You're a great person, but you do a good job in our office, but whatever follows. Right. They're going to focus on that negativity. They're never going to pay attention to that positive that was in front. Instead, change it to the word and. Timmy, you did great in science, you did great in math, and in English you got a B. So we need to do a little more work on that one. Changes the whole context, continues that positivity through from the beginning to the end, and you will receive so much better response from these people that you're using this with. So as you're being conscious and not critiquing, if you do have to make a correction, or you have to give some advice on how to fix something, don't use but, use and.
So this is something very important, and we started and discussed with awareness and what is our behavior and what is our actions and what is the reactions of ourselves or our others. I do this huge social emotional intelligence profile. Like I said, I've been working towards this for so many years, and so grateful to have found such an amazing tool. And sometimes, and I don't have one to show anybody, but sometimes, there's vulnerabilities. And I started with, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Yep. And I'm so grateful to share this with you, because there is nothing wrong with any of us. There's nothing wrong with us.
Jack's cracking me up, I'm sorry. He says, don't be a butthead or a shouldhead. Last thing we want to do is be shoulding all over ourselves, right?
I love it. And that's so, we should ourselves to death, right? So I'm going to leave this. This is the last part of the paragraph on page 16. He wrote, instead of condemning people, let's try to understand them. Let's try to figure out why they do what they do. That's a lot more profitable and intriguing than criticism, and it breeds sympathy, tolerance, and kindness. To know all is to forgive all. I love this. We are not the judge. We are not the people that should be judging. We don't want anybody to judge us.
Judge yourself is the best thing you can do.
Well, this is something Ryder and I had a discussion. It's nobody's fault but our own for anything that happens in our life that we're displeased on.
Everything is my fault.
Indeed. So principle number 1, don't criticize, condemn, or complain.
To recognize we're all going to make mistakes.
We are going to make mistakes, but that's...
In fact, Jack has made a few already today, he said. He's going to keep making them.
Jack, I love you, I swear. Yes, and Jerry, you're 1,000% right. And you know what? Sometimes we're scared to make a mistake, right? Because we're scared. And you know what?
You got to welcome it. You got to love it.
If you don't try, you fail. Yeah. Worse than if you try and make a mistake. So I love that. Thank you.
Coward dies 1,000 deaths.
Indeed. This is like the best thing that I think I've ever come up with to do.
It's awesome. I love it.
It is so awesome. It is so awesome because just that one little thing that we've spoken about today maybe could change somebody's whole perspective. It only takes one thing. But please, if you didn't, go buy this book.
Either the real book, or if you don't have time to read, use that no extra time we talked about in our last set of books and download it or get it on audible.com. It'll be a $14 book on audible.com, and you can listen to it everywhere you go while you're in the shower, on the toilet, cooking breakfast, going to bed, or driving to work. Use that time.
I read something the other day, this was interesting, about our subconscious and the message that we're sending to people, or to ourselves, I'm sorry. So if we say, oh, well, I don't have time, we're actually, taking away our power. So like Ryder is saying, you can switch this in. I've actually do that. I have an earpiece thing and I walk around with my phone and I listen to some stuff because I can squish it in.
I have 3 sets of them, one in my car, one in my bedroom, one in my office.
Who is, and Jack, I want you to answer, who is the most important person we know? Is Jack answering?
You need a waterproof Bluetooth speaker.
Oh, jeez.
He said earlier in the conversation, one of his first comments, that the most important thing is the person of I.
Indeed.
So, yeah.
And Jerry emphasized that just now.
And later in the book, they go into that. AT&T did a study of the most commonly used words in the English language over a period of time, like 50,000 speakers, something like that. And over 50,000 times the word I came up like per day on AT&T tapped phone line calls. Okay. So it's the most common word, the most popular word, the most powerful word. So
right. Oh, and self-expression. I am.
Are we going there right now?
No, we're not.
We're just
going to end on that. Yeah, we are really out
the strongest words, the strongest phrase in humanity.
I am whatever follows next, like Jack should have, I should have. But I am whatever follows next, it will dictate what you will be.
Yes.
Absolutely. So keep that in mind. A is for awareness. BS is for beautiful.
BS is for BS and beautiful state.
Beautiful state. Remember, BS, beautiful state. Stay in your beautiful state. Be powerful. We'll be doing chapter 2 next week. The big secret of dealing with people. I didn't reread this. Like I said, I've done this years ago. I haven't read this in years, and I was so enjoying this book.
It's an amazing book.
It's such an amazing book. So much hidden.
It really is a fun read and a fun listen to also, too. Every time I listen to it, I'm always like, I'm laughing at the stories as they're going about. It's enjoyable also, too. Right. It's not just dry. And
it's a shame that it's so hidden. Oh, last thing again, if anybody's interested in the information about Dr. Lewis, 33 at Theater 3, contact me. Our number is 631-331-2675 at the Time to Play Foundation. This is the Empower Half Hour Life and Business Success podcast each Tuesday. Join us here at the train car. We'd love to have you. Just me and Ryder. We can have 400 people in this room. Not really, but
I hope not.
we'll switch it out. We'll all be friends.
That's the case. We'll go across the street to the gym. We'll shoot from there.
That's
It's
it.
all right.
I'm good with that too. So, but I thank the chamber for allowing us. We're part of the chamber, but we all need to work together.
And not but. No buts. We're part of the chamber, and we all need to work together.
Oh, yes, and we all need to work together.
Stop using your butt.
Did I say butt?
Of course you did. I wouldn't be yelling at you if you didn't.
All right. Well, have a great week, and we'll see you next
Enjoy,
week.
guys.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Jack.
Thanks, Dory.
And have a great week.